Okay, I think we're live. First time doing this, so still sorting it out. But yeah, hey Jake, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mark?
Good, good, good. Okay, so I'm Mark. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Most. Today with me, I have Jake, the co-founder and CEO of Outer. This is our first ever kind of LinkedIn live event. Really excited about it. We're doing an AMA with Jake. I have questions lined up. For the last couple of weeks, we got questions from other people in the e-commerce, direct-to-consumer industry asking questions. So really excited to run through that. We hope to kind of make a series out of this and do these on a regular basis, whether it's AMAs or just any kind of conversations with people in the space, because we really just want to have interesting insights and conversations with people and working on great businesses in the direct to consumer space. So this is sort of brought to you by Most. Most is a e-commerce SaaS. We're launching a Shopify app next month. Really excited about this Shopify app. It's going to be a conversational UGC app that's going to help brands collect and display user-generated content on their site. And it's going to be a very powerful way for brands to kind of engage with their shoppers and connect them with existing customers in their community. And something that has been a strategy for Outer and probably something we're going to touch on today as well. So yeah, let's get into it, Jake. Why don't you just maybe start by giving us a background of yourself and how you started Outer. What brought you here today?
Sure. Happy to. Thanks for inviting me. Honored to be here. So my name is Jiake Liu, co-founder and CEO of Outer. We're a Santa Monica-based consumer-first premium outdoor living brand. First, by focusing on reinventing outdoor furniture, but our vision is really to change how we live outside and how to make use of our outdoor spaces. We've been around for, over 5 years now.
Congrats.
2019. So I guess coming up on 5 years officially. Thank you. Yeah, it's been quite the journey. And so, looking forward to sharing, answering any questions that your audience might have.
Yeah. Well, it's an AMA, so probably get some questions live. But in the meantime, I spoke to some people. We got a lot of great feedback when we announced that we were doing this with you, and a lot of questions coming in. So I guess let's just get right to it. So I actually preloaded some of these questions, which is pretty cool. I could show them on the screen now.
That's cool.
So yeah. So first one's from Graham. Graham's from Boreal Design. And he's asking, so as a furniture seller, what challenges and successes have you had around the shipping logistics and expectations in this Amazon age of almost next day delivery? And I know that to be a very kind of interesting topic, right? It's almost like your brand versus Outer, and Outer sets the rules and expectations, and your brand has to follow suit. So probably two parts of that question, but yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Boreal Design. I just looked it up. Kayaks, beautiful, beautiful products. I can imagine that's probably shipping is definitely a huge challenge. Logistics, right? Anything that's bulky, anything that's not small parcel, it's additionally difficult given that Amazon, 9 out of 10 packages are small parcel, but very few are freight, and LTL is the kind of like the industry lingo, which is what we have to deal with. So Outer, we sell premium high-end furniture, which means we can't do any what's called KD or knockdown, or another way to say it is flat packed, or like the IKEA style, where you get parts and then you can assemble everything yourself. So we don't do that. Everything's fully assembled, everything's pre-welded, pre-built. That's the only way you can build really high quality premium products that don't break after years and years. And so for that, the downside of that is that we have to ship in large packages and boxes.
Mm-hmm.
We use freight, we use palletized shipment. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been very challenging from day one, even though we did design around, ease of shipping, and, it's still been very challenging. It's still an ongoing topic, especially during the COVID crisis, where the ports were congested. I have to share that, that was very, very challenging for us as well. So, what specific challenges and successes? I mean, success wise, I think, challenge wise, we have the delay and also last mile delivery fulfillment. As you can imagine, for larger furniture products, you would have to have a box truck with a lift gate. Generally, our products are sent from our central warehouse to kind of like last mile distribution center or warehouse, and then from there, there's a last mile delivery provider. Whether it's two men in a truck, not the company, but just figuratively, that can deliver the products, from the warehouse to consumers' home. And in this case, there's curbside delivery and there's also white glove. And given our demographic and our customer base, most 90% of it is white glove, right? They just want someone to set everything up for them, and then they take away all the packages and the debris. So that's been challenging in the sense that there's not a consistent service provider for the last mile, because usually these last mile providers are farmed out to different local contractors, right? Who unless we work with a big company like FedEx, which we do, they are generally good, but even they are inconsistent. The
Yeah.
Instagram with like FedEx Ninjas is definitely a thing. You would think that for bigger packages that's not a problem. You can't really just sneak in and and not let the homeowner know, but no, that's not the case. I mean, it's been challenging as well. So success wise, I think really it's just about working with upstream with packaging to, even though it's fully assembled, but we try to design everything. For example, our sofas, right? It's modular, so it's not like a 3-seat sofa where it's like super long that you have to carry on the truck vertically or store vertically. It's actually broken into 3 boxes, right? So you can stack the 3 boxes however you want to. So those are regular, very predictable cubic, sizes, and so that's able to help us kind of minimize shipping costs and improve kind of like shipping logistics. So I mean,
Right.
just upstream, yeah.
Do you charge for shipping, by the way, on your site?
We do. I
Yeah.
think to kind of use the expectation of Amazon age, right? I think
Yeah.
everybody understands that this is a bulky product. If we
Mhm.
don't charge shipping, everybody knows that it's built into the price because it
Yeah.
is expensive to ship, right? And
Yeah.
so no one
Have you
is.
tested both, baking it into the price versus not?
Good point. So we did include it in the price before. Now we decided to charge, basically separate it out. I think that's all in the pursuit of just being transparent and authentic to the
Yeah.
brand. I don't want to, even though like psychologically speaking, maybe the consumer would feel better. Oh, it's free shipping, but it is such a considered purchase, right? Our AOV is well above $6,000. That
Mhm.
consumer is making a conscious decision to buy this, and they, we want them to know that hey, shipping something so bulky and heavy costs, right?
Right.
And part of it is also the eco-friendly, mission. Like there are ways they can get it a little bit slower, but then we can probably consolidate more shipments together that can actually, reduce the total carbon footprint, therefore the cost to consumer and to us as well. So that was a conscious decision to
Because
decide.
speed is part 2 of that, right? It's cost and then it's speed, and again, going back to Amazon, it's like, you know, no shipping fees if you're with Prime, and it's like next day or 2-day delivery. So that I guess is tough when, there's no outers on Amazon, but there's similar products out there, and that's something you're fighting against. Do you think about that, or do you just let your product speak for itself and sell itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you don't really, if you're buying a premium product or high end product, it's kind of like the worth is the weight is the weight worth it, right? Anything
Yeah,
worth having is
worth
worth
waiting
waiting
for.
for. That's
Yeah,
one of my favorite quotes in life.
yeah,
So that kind of translates here. Obviously, I'm not saying, like if you order from a traditional retailer, you sometimes have to wait 6 months to get delivered because sometimes they're just in time manufacturing, right? So our
right.
advantage is that we stock everything in our warehouses here stateside. And so everything is deployed, shipped out pretty quickly within 2 days, and everything should be delivered to your home within 2 weeks, which is still quite fast for like a premium
Yeah,
high
yeah.
end
Fair
furniture product.
compromise for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
to get your hands on one of these. Okay, moving on. Veronica from KUIU. I'm not sure if you'll check that one out. Which KPIs are uniquely important for DTC companies to be closely monitoring, especially in regards to on-site visitor behavior?
Yeah. KUIU, hunting gear, huh? That looks really
Hunting gear.
interesting. Yeah, that looks cool. I'm just looking up all these websites in real time. Maybe there's some interesting collabs we can do.
Yeah.
Which KPIs are
I
uniquely
wonder what the
important?
overlap is with hunting gear and outdoor furniture. I guess
Outdoor
post
living,
hunting
right?
R&R post hunting, they need some good furniture to relax on. That's weather resistant.
A prey hunt, not a prey
Yeah,
ski.
yeah.
Um,
I pray hunt.
yeah. So on-site visitor behavior. There's not like any novel thing that I can share with you. It's the funnel, the classic,
Yeah.
funnel. I think the difference between us. So by that I mean like on-site time, bounce rates, conversion rates, right?
Hmm.
Page views, all of that. I mean, it's like you're just
The
reading through
one-on-ones.
the one-on-one, the Google dashboard, right?
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that I can share that's relevant to most is we monitor this metric, which is, for those of you who don't know, Outer has this program called Neighborhood Showroom. We basically we have over 1,000 of these customer showrooms where our existing customers turn their backyard into our quote unquote showrooms in real life. And so no matter where you live, right, in the country, you can type in your zip code and you find a customer to go visit their backyard to see our products in person before making the purchase decision, right? And so
Brilliant concept. One that we're well aware of. Some
it's a decent
overlaps with what we're
one,
doing at most. Yeah.
right? Just a little bit. I think it's a powerful concept. I think how is that relevant to DTC and e-commerce? You said on-site visitor because that's so offline. I mean, we actually monitor the amount of people who search for a showroom nearby on the website, but they decide not to go visit physically. But so I can share that over 80, I want to say like over 85% of all purchases have somehow touched that funnel, meaning they will look for a showroom nearby and just to
Hmm.
see, what do they look like, where they are, what are the conditions, and what does the customer look like. We have like a host profile, kind of like Airbnb. You can go to liveouter.com and check it out. Um, and we realized that it's very powerful because in the inception of the business, people thought this is only a California or like Los Angeles. This is where we're based, right? Santa Monica based company. And
Right.
the number one question we would get on the website is like, well, like, does your product work in New York, for example, or Florida, or Seattle? Name your city, right?
Hmm.
Or place. As we added these showrooms across the country, we actually got fewer of those questions. Sure, we were getting more offline visits, but more importantly, online. In the online journey, people are searching for showrooms and nearby, and it's almost like, oh, okay, there is a showroom near me. Now I feel good about making this purchase. I don't actually have to physically visit it. So we
Right.
actually
Interesting.
monitor that. I guess the point I'm trying to make is every product and every brand is pretty unique, right? And for us, and specifically speaking to your company, Veronica, Kuyo, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's a I'm assuming it's a very considered purchase, a very niche focused demographic, and for us as well, right? We track over 40 plus touch points before purchase. Sometimes the
Wow.
purchase sales cycle could be as long as 10 months because
Wow.
it's probably like waiting till next outdoor season, right? So I
Mm.
think for every brand, it's like very unique. You have to understand your consumer journey, and I think the new way of thinking of like it's not a classic funnel, but it's actually ping ponging back and forth, and that's really important. And so anyway, I'm being pretty abstract about this, but beyond kind of like the classic metrics, find the kind of like the North Star metric that matters to you. For us, it is like the engagement with the neighborhood showroom. That's important to us. I don't know what that is for you, but I would encourage kind of dive
Yeah,
in.
hunting gear probably has a lot of overlap, I guess, in the seasonality of it.
Sure.
In terms of the kind of social proof and trust element that the showroom program offers as well would probably be very important for hunting gear and just having that connection with a real customer and seeing the international presence of the business as well, or
Sure.
national presence to show size. I mean, we're touching on the showroom program, and that was something that I kind of um, wanted to touch on as well. Is that here? Yeah. So just maybe we could talk a little bit more about the program because you did cover some of it, but just what's the latest? Because I know in our conversations in the past, the kind of priorities have shifted at times, but it's as you're saying right now, it's a focal point of your online funnel. What are you seeing now with that program?
Yeah, so we're working on a program. I cannot disclose exactly what we're working on right now, but we're working on something that actually increases our presence for local searches, through the neighborhood
Right.
showroom program.
From an SEO standpoint.
That's right. And so, I think the power of the neighborhood showroom, like I mentioned, we do have over 1,000 of these showrooms, and we're not intentionally increasing that amount because unlike Airbnb, who benefits from unlimited supply, right? Like they're they would not be opposed to turn every home in a world into an
Yeah.
Airbnb. They can
Yeah.
benefit from that, right? But for us, it's like, well, in LA, do you really need more than 20 or 50 showrooms, right? What is the magic number, golden number that can give people an option to go see in their neighborhood, near their neighborhood, but not oversaturate? I mean, you can make an argument that maybe there's different styles and different hosts, different lifestyles that can give you different inspirations. But ultimately, the customer pain point is to see, touch, and feel the product. And as long as we can solve for that, it's like 80% there, right? So
Right.
anyway, so given that we built the program out, we're not intentionally growing the presence of the total amount. We do have a pretty long wait list of people who want to do it. But how do we improve the quality of the content and the experience for the hosts, people who are hosting these showrooms versus visitors? How do we use that as a content generation, funnel to give us authentic experiences, even before and post the actual visits, right? Those are the things that we're thinking about and
Right.
executing on.
Right. So it sounds like it's still growing in importance in terms of your online strategy.
I would say less importance on just quantity of showrooms and like total amount of growth, but the depth and quality and experience of the showroom
Of
program
each
as
one.
well.
Of
Yeah.
each one.
Mhm.
Interesting. Okay, let's go back to some questions that we received. This one's from Sean from Merkava. I sell e-bikes online, and the biggest challenge when selling to new markets is servicing after delivery. Have you experienced this in your industry, and what's your approach to it?
I think that's very unique to your industry, Sean. I mean, Merkava, I looked it up too. I mean, e-bikes. I know a few brands pretty well. I think uh, the when I talk to the founders, they say to your point that the post-purchase experience is the most important. I think the common solution for them has been to work with local bike shops, right? Because it's not just the distribution and sales point, but it's actually aftermarket like service experience.
Right.
Um, so for us, it's actually less relevant. Our return rate is minimal, like less than 0.1%. We don't really have a lot of service required. I mean, we
If
do
something
sell.
rips or breaks, I
Yeah, if
guess
it rips, we can send replacement,
parts,
fabrics,
yeah.
covers, or there's touch up.
Easy enough for them to fix themselves too.
That's right. It's not as complicated as a bike, I would say. So unfortunately, can't I can't be too helpful there, but I'm just sharing what I know, which is maybe consider the bike shops locally that's
Yeah.
been working for a few brands that I know of. Yeah.
Yeah, we work with a bunch of e-bike brands, and I know that a lot of them that's one of their main factors for considering going into new markets. It's like, okay, if I sell, in the city and the bike breaks, like what relationships can I build with local dealers there that I could direct them to, or bike shops, things like that. And
Yep.
I know that there's some programs too that are kind of building these like distributed, kind of freelance, bike fixers or repair people, which is an interesting concept as well to kind of tap into that kind of market. But yeah, I guess with furniture, it makes it a bit easier. Let's move on. Here's a question from Caddy Wheel, from Bob from Caddy Wheel. Can you share some tips for selling high AOV expensive goods online? So I actually know Caddy Wheel. I know they sell an expensive product. Well, not as expensive as kind of big outdoor furniture products, but it's still kind of a high considered good, and so some overlap with outer. So what's your kind of best practices for selling high AOV goods?
First of all, can I just say I like really enjoy just discovering these brands, like categories.
Yeah.
Actually, right after this webinar, I'm going to the LPGA tournament in LA
Oh,
this week.
nice.
We're sponsoring that, and so I
That's
get to
there in
go
LA.
in LA. Yeah,
Wow, and outer is a sponsor for that. Awesome.
we are. Yeah, we actually have a few more tickets. If anybody's in LA that wants to go, just
Okay.
hit me up afterwards.
Yeah,
But
I'd
interesting
love to
product.
go.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah, fly down there. It's
Fly
till
down.
till Sunday.
Yeah, Won't make it
Um,
there in time, but yeah, Caddy Wheel is a very interesting product, innovative,
yeah, and I would say the price actually surprisingly low. I
reasonable.
would say, like, if I was more of like an avid golfer, I don't golf, but if I
Okay,
do, I think that's a pretty good price. Anyway, yeah, so selling high expensive goods online. I mean, depending on how you kind of define how expensive or high AOV, everything's relative, right? I think for us, again, like our AOV is about 6,000. Actually, last month our AOV is $9,000 as we go from like a single product to like a bundle kind of like
mhm,
solution strategy. It's going up quite considerably. I would share one thing. I mean, there are many things, right? Obviously, one thing is I would share is like the 30s, the Gallup 30/70 rule, right? The fact that consumers make purchase decisions 70% of the time is based on emotions. Certainly, when it comes to like higher end, more expensive products, you would think that they're more rational because it's such a considered purchase. But at the end of the day, they are making an emotional decision, especially if it's like a branded product, right? In which case, I think Caddy will is. And so for us, I can share one thing, which is we have a DTC sales team, which is kind of unorthodox, right?
right.
Most DTC companies they don't have a
Rely on
sales
like
market
inbound, yeah, and
inbound,
marketing, yeah,
self-serve, and all of that.
right.
So we do have a team that basically we incentivize, not incentivize, we try to get customers to talk to our sales team. And you'll see it on our website, it's the intercom popping up, chatting with you. I can share that more than 50% of our sales, are
Come from
like
that
one of our, team members.
human
And
interactions. You're not replacing that with AI just yet, at least.
no, I think, we're not a volume business per se, especially comparing to the IKEAs of the world, right? We don't
Right.
intend to be. I think, even in the beginning, the business, I tell my team that don't think about a funnel for customers. Think about customers in a line and you're like shaking their hands one by one,
Right.
right? Like
Interesting.
it's white glove kind of experience. It's like going to a five-star hotel, right? Where you have this concierge like service because we rely on one, the trust to convert, like buying a $6,000 sofa online sight unseen, right? Like that requires a high level of trust. And so, how do we kind of build that trust through, content, through creatives? That's definitely like table stakes. But how do you actually build that trust through actual service? And so have live human being they can talk to makes sense. Now, I don't know if that translates well to your price point at 600, because at some point, at absolute dollar amount, it makes sense to introduce human, right? Because
Right.
there's commission and all of that consideration as well, right? And so I'm not sure at 500 that's worthwhile. I would think you can probably try it. I think you can probably use some AI tools to kind of support that, but it is a more new product, right? It's an innovative product. So I'm sure the customers have a lot of questions and they will want to talk to someone that they can actually, ask questions real time. I feel like leaning more into kind of
That
like the
personal touch.
high touch service would really help a lot. We've helped a lot of other brands that are kind of like in the $1,000 plus range to kind of deploy this DTC sales team model. All of them have seen a lot of success.
Right. It's funny that most brands will kind of think initially that way, where it's like, okay, our first 100 sales, we're going to have this white glove service and we're going to hold the hand through the checkout, build that trust. And then they start thinking about scale. Okay, we've already sold 100 of these. From now on, you should be good enough to make this purchase on your own. We don't need to intervene. Maybe we could build in like AI chatbots or other types of support. You've been around for 5 years now, and 5 years later, you still have that kind of human interaction. You're still supporting with sales. So I think that that's very interesting to continue that process throughout.
We intend to do that, for the lifetime of the company. I mean, I joke that my title CEO stands for customer experience officer. I still leave my phone number
Nice.
on every order that we send out. I mean, semi automatic. So I do reach out through my personal email address and I attach my phone number to it for every order that we receive, even to this day. And I still get a lot of text messages, and I kind of treasure that because I'm getting direct feedback from customers, good or bad. I mean, most of the time it's good, but in some cases, if it's bad delivery experience, I hear about it firsthand.
Right.
I jump in to kind of like help people, and so I think that's the only way to kind of build a premium brand that people would trust, that they would part with, thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars in the long run.
to make that purchase.
Yeah.
I apologize if I look distracted. I'm being told that we're getting some live questions as well, and first LinkedIn Live, looking to see where those are coming from. So I will get to the live questions as soon as I get that support. But we could keep rolling in the meantime because Jake, you're on fire, and this is very, very helpful. I have a few other kind of questions that have been submitted before. I want to start with one of my own, maybe just more of a, not that these haven't been fun topics, but I know this one specifically is always fun to talk about. Shark Tank. Must have been a pretty cool experience. What was it like? What was it like going on Shark Tank? Were you nervous?
I wasn't necessarily nervous. I was pretty excited. Growing up, I was actually a saxophonist, so like I was
Cool.
in a jazz band. I'm used to being under the spotlight. I was the lead alto saxophonist. That means I have to do solo, standing up in front of like a crowd of hundreds, if not over
Wow.
1,000 people. So I think that's probably ingrained in me, and I think it kind of kicks me into high gear, adrenaline, and everything. So it was really interesting because I went on the show with my co-founder Terry, who's doesn't have that kind of experience, and afterwards, so you go on the show and you film for an hour straight with no break, right? And they're filming every moment, and they're looking for opportunities, let's put it this way, to make it dramatic, right? And if you
Yeah, it's
mess up, you
entertainment,
mess
so they
up,
got to
and
make
they're going
yeah,
to kind of turn that into like entertaining bit for the audience, right? And so that's a double-edged sword. It could be really dramatic and good for you, or it could be disastrous. We've seen some examples of that as well. So
yeah.
in that regard, it is high pressure, but I wasn't necessarily fearful or anxious. If anything, I was pretty excited. My co-founder, on the other hand, afterwards, I remember we walked, because after you film, you walk out the door, right? Like the double door, and there's a corridor in there,
Which
and
is
then
still recorded. Like they'll record your walkout, right?
it is, yeah. I don't think they showed that part of me and him talking. I don't know. I've only watched it once myself. I just cannot bear watching myself on TV.
Yeah.
But he told me that he blacked out. I was like, "Oh, do you remember when they actually all went on and sat on the sofa?" He's like, "No, when did that happen?" They didn't show that bit, unfortunately.
Right.
But I think it's a different experience for different people. But it was such a blast. It was such a great experience. I would encourage any entrepreneur who have an opportunity to go on. When it showed, it was so fun. I'm getting texts from my long lost friends from middle school, high school. Like the reach. It's a gift that keeps on giving. They don't take any
Right.
equity. Like it's that's a myth, right? Shark Tank itself, it does not take any equity. It's really just
Okay.
distributed
I
market.
never even heard that, so I didn't think that, but I didn't know that people thought that. Yeah, I
That's
wouldn't
one of my
expect it.
most asked questions. They're like, "Oh, do they take equity?" It's like, actually, no. In
Wow,
fact,
that
the
that would
legend has it that Mark Cuban made that a rule in season two. If
mm,
in the beginning they took equity, and then Mark Cuban said, I'm not sure if this is urban legend or not, but allegedly he said, if you keep on taking equity from companies, then I'm not going to do the show, right?
wow.
So from there
Yeah.
on, the show itself is not taking equity, and so
Yeah.
there's no
That
downside to
kinda
it, in my
defeats the
opinion.
purpose of it in a way. But you got a deal with Lori, at least on the show. I'm curious if that, because I know not all deals close behind doors. Did your deal close?
Right, so I can't comment too much on that. I mean, there's, like, a lot of NDA, and, like, I can't talk about
Right.
specific parts of it. So, like, the deal making itself, unfortunately, I cannot talk about. I mean, I can just say, like, Lori and her team has been, really good to work with, very professional. Obviously, they've worked with hundreds of deals like this, right? But unfortunately, I cannot talk about the specifics of
Right,
what
right.
happened.
Sometimes I guess Shark Tank will announce it like in, a few seasons later, they'll look back on a previous deal and be like,
Yeah,
unfortunately the
what
deal
happened
didn't
to it?
close. I guess they have to announce that. So it sounds like you would recommend this experience for other brands if they have the opportunity to come on the show.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
let's put it this way, 5 years later, we attribute still 7 to 10% of our sales to Shark Tank. Think about that. I
Wow.
mean,
Okay.
that's
Because that was one of my questions too, is what was the lift like? And obviously when it airs, you'll get a lift. So now there's a residual lift as well.
I mean, when it aired, we didn't get an immediate lift because this was aired in November 2019. It was like in the dead of the season for us.
Right.
We're a very seasonal business, but we built a lot of leads and a lot of traffic. And I joke that when you look at the Google Analytics at the moment that they air, you always know why it's called a Shark Tank, because you see a shark fin of like, what I mean, like the visitors count, and it
Right.
dives down pretty quickly after the show, right? And that happens a lot over the last few years because they re-air on
Yeah, the
TV,
reruns.
and people watch it on Hulu, people watch it on YouTube. And it's just like a gift that keeps on giving. And we do this post-purchase survey to see like where you've heard about our brand, and Shark Tank is still up there.
7 to 10%. Wow. Good
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, great experience. I mean, I can't don't envy that. And I always wonder how so many people go up on there and they just every single pitch is like just so flawless and no
But we
one seems
practice.
nervous.
We practice like a
Yeah.
hundred times, and we still screw it up a little bit, But yeah, you practice a lot before you go on.
Yeah,
That's
probably
the
more
only thing you
nerve-wracking.
regret. You have to, like, put in, like, a month, 2 months of preparation. I think that would be the
I
investment, right?
imagine.
And you're not guaranteed to air. I think there were 43,000 teams that applied, and we
Wow.
were out of that, we were one of 80 that actually aired eventually, so the odds are against you, but I would think, it's worth the
It's
investment.
worth it if you get through. Hmm. Well, it must be, as nerve-wracking, if not more nerve-wracking than pitching to investors. And just speaking, like, just on this topic of financing, just, high level, like, Outdoors had a lot of success raising venture capital. Um, I'm just curious for other brands that are looking to raise now. Just how have things changed in the last 2 3 years? Of course, there was a big kind of bull market in venture capital, and things have changed quite significantly recently. Just from your standpoint, like how have expectations changed with investors, and how have your strategies changed from like a financing perspective in today's economic landscape?
Yeah, I think it's not news to, anybody in the audience that, the landscape has completely changed. 2 to 3 years ago in the bull market, growth was the number one driver. The momentum from COVID and e-commerce and, all of that. I mean, that was beneficial to most online brands. Um, Nowadays, it's almost a 180, right? Like growth is not, I mean, if you can still grow, then obviously great, but like, are you actually growing profitably? And do you have line of sight to get to profitability? And
Hmm.
especially for, I think, BTC for, any consumer goods, CPG, kind of like brands, consumer brands, I feel people are, you know, uh, investors always look at like market comps, right? They look at public market companies, and then to see the comps, and they're down dramatically. A lot of the DTC darlings back in the days, they're down 90%, 99%, even in some cases, right? So it's not pretty out there for fundraising, but I would say for early stage, which I'm an angel investor myself, there's still a lot of activities. I think consumer retail e-com is going to be it's cyclical, but it's always going to be there. I still believe in the long-term value of building, let's say, new brands that are born out of digital, but that are becoming omni-channel. And so,
Right.
in the early stages, investors are still, um, I wouldn't say excited, but definitely at least like open-minded about investing in new products, new brands. But for a later stage and growth stage, I think it's just very different. The conversation is very different, right? Like profitability and EBITDA and
Greater
operations
emphasis on
are kind of like the
profitability.
top three things, whereas before it was like growth, right? Growth, adoption, and market share are probably the most important. So
Right.
yeah, those are the obvious changes that you will see from conversations with investors today.
Just gotta, I guess, change strategies along as the landscape changes as well, and put that focus back on profitability. Let's
Totally.
go back to some question that we received before. So,
Yeah.
what's your approach to competition? I like this one because I think about this a lot. Ourselves, even at most, this applies to any business, not
Yeah.
just e-commerce. But do you pay attention? Don't pay attention, or somewhere in the middle? That's from Andrew from Kamek.
Good question. I don't pay attention, but I do care. Like for my category, right? It's patio furniture, outdoor living. It's a quite niche category. And to me, it's more important that we, I believe in rising tide lifts all boats kind of analogy. I mean, in life and in business, I think I believe in cooperation and competition. Um, So, I talk to my direct competitors, all the time with not I wouldn't say all the time, but I definitely keep in touch with them, right? With the CEO of some of my competitive brands. And, I think it's about how to raise awareness about this category for the overall consumer. I think that's a bigger reward for everyone than to think about like how can I take market share away from them. It's like slicing a tiny cake is not interesting. How do we
Hmm.
all work together to grow the cake? I think that's my
Grow the
approach.
category as a whole.
I don't know if that answers your question, Andrew, but like when it comes to like creatives and products and stuff like that, I don't actually look at what they're doing. I think obviously from like an e-com standpoint, if there are metrics they can readily get, we can share that information with the team, with best practices and all of that. I think that's fair game, but we try to. What's the saying? And I don't say this to demean any of our competitors, but it's like and sounds harsh, but I think gets the point across. Like losers focus on competitors and winners focus on winning, kind of. But like, I think the
Yeah.
spirit is like you have to focus on what you do and focusing on building what makes you unique. And sometimes when you look at the competitor too much, it kind of makes you a compromised version of what you can be. Anyway, I'll leave it there.
No, and I think that's it's very insightful because I remember when we first connected and we spoke about, what we were doing at Most, and obviously again with competition is related to every business. And we found kind of other businesses working on similar platforms, and your immediate response is, that's great news because to your point before is like it's about the pie as a whole. Like just more competition means more people getting this concept out there, and growing the pie so the market share is bigger, and then your slice of it will be bigger as well, and there's ways to kind of differentiate and kind of get competitive. So I think that, yeah, like even in sports and in anything, competition is good, and there's probably a healthy balance between one eye on the competitor and one eye on your business, and just kind of having that balance, not getting too sidetracked.
Yep.
Jake, we're doing great here. I think there's like a few more, and this is very insightful. Let me just see if we want to go to, I like this one. This is actually an internal question that we had.
Yeah.
Just I guess quickly from a marketing standpoint, what are some of the priorities this year, in 2024? Like, are there trends, topics, channels, or anything that's like a can't miss for a brand this year? Just like from a high level, singular focus.
I mean, for I can speak to ourselves. What I'm observing for brands that are probably around for around 5 year mark. It is about going omni-channel, right? Like that's not the everyone's kind of chanting that nowadays, but I do think it's very. I mean, specifically for our category, it's like furniture. I mean, it's such an offline purchase, and so going
Hmm.
omni-channel is important for us. The priority is to go find some of these offline channels that make strategic sense. Where you find Outer at another furniture retailer, probably not, but like we find us in other offline channels that make strategic sense for the target buyer. Probably you will, right? So that's that's one thing that we I know we're working on.
Those would be like boutique shops or like kind of high end shops that fit your brand, or
Yeah, it could be big box, but
have
not.
you thought of your own branded stores?
We're kind of considering it, given that there is an opportunity because of the crash of the retail real estate market. So there are some
Right.
good opportunities, especially in Los Angeles, bigger cities. So we're looking at that, but it's optimistic. Um, Obviously, some other things, right? Like I think not this is not too relevant to my own brand, but for some of my portfolio companies I invested in or advise, TikTok Shop, right? Despite the political backlash and
Yep.
risk there, I mean that's a huge they are spending a lot of money onboarding brands, and there's literally money on the table for brands to take. So learning that channel, leaning back into we just launched on Amazon actually. Outer did, you know,
Okay.
um, we are selling accessorial items on Amazon, not necessarily our core products because no one goes to Amazon to buy $5,000 piece of outdoor furniture, but we're selling our blankets and throw pillows and rugs on there, right? Just to kind of build the brand presence because like that's too big
Get
of
some
a
top of funnel, yeah, get your
yeah,
exposure out there, and then kind of resell them from there.
too important of channel to ignore, right? It's a big channel, and so I think Walmart.com I feel like is really gearing up, right? I think that's a can't miss channel for a lot of, again, not super relevant to us, but like I think for a lot of people that's a very important channel to look at because they want to play the catch up game to Amazon, and I think they're doing a really good job. And I think probably going to see a lot more Walmart.com, in presence in for different e-com brands. So yeah, those are some of the digital channels that obviously can't be ignored in 2024.
What about UGC? We see a lot of people talking about UGC. Obviously, we're in this space, so I'm not just trying to plug it because we're in it, but it just seems like it's a topic that's, constantly coming up for others. How do you guys approach UGC?
So again, this we are kind of like maybe an outlier here. I think there is a trend to um, work with influencers and create some of these more of like the UGC that way. But I think there's also maybe like audience fatigue. Like it's almost like the trope of being like a iPhone camera, like really authentic, really real life, and you're getting bombarded with that right now, right, on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, and you
Yeah.
name your short video platform. And I feel like there's a reverse to kind of like the professional generated content. I mean, we
Mm.
made a conscious decision to actually cut out some of that and then to feature more PGC and to feature more like instead of like an influencer program, think of it as like an ambassador program. It's like very intentional partnerships with
Right.
more influential celebrities or influencers in general, but fewer of them, right? But but
Mhm.
but but but,
Quality
but
over quantity, I guess, and instead of
yeah,
just blasting it everywhere. Yeah.
right. But I mean, obviously, it's like working with influencer marketing is still really important for most brands. It is important for us as well, but we're kind of like reassessing that as we are trying to build a more elevated experience and brand for for our audience. I would say like the tried and true, right? Community is still the I think it applies to any brand. I think lower or higher price points. I think relevant to most. I think like I said earlier, neighborhood showroom still remains one of our most effective trust signals and community builders. Um, we have a we have a couple that's getting married this year that they met over at neighborhood showroom a few years ago during the
Wow,
pandemic. It's
what a
like
story.
real life connections, right?
Yeah,
Like I don't know if I don't necessarily
authentic.
want to commercialize and market that point, but, because I don't think that's fair to their privacy, but, like,
Yeah,
but the point of, like, people yearning for real life connections, kinda like this trend of, like, disconnecting from technology and kind of like looking at each other's eye. It was like post-COVID era. I think there's something there that I think you guys are tapping into. Obviously, at most, I think it's like real authentic connections. That's from a marketing standpoint, nothing beats that, right? Like the word of
yeah,
mouth. How do you promote the word of mouth and authentic um, referrals and all of that? So that's just always there, right? Like I don't think
yeah.
that's gonna go away ever.
Yeah. Well, thanks for bringing it back to the showroom program as well, because I saw that was some of the questions we were getting. People love that showroom program, so we will actually kind of clip that your previous answers, and we could share them back with everyone in case you missed it. Jake, one more for you. I think this is a really interesting topic. Um, yeah, so I noticed you added some new product lines this year. I'm just curious about your decision-making process, your strategy for expanding your product lines, like what goes into it, and how do you decide like where to expand to?
Yeah, for us, it's been really just trying to I mean, we call it, problem solution, approach. And so we look at, our mission is to get people outside in ease and in comfort. And so, live a better life outside. I mean, we basically look at the backyard and say, okay, what are missing here? Right. We start with the
Mhm.
outdoor sofa because that's kind of like that centerpiece. Imagine a living room without a sofa.
Yeah,
A living room can do without a TV, can do without a lot of things, but if your living room doesn't have like a seating area, then that doesn't feel like a living room, right? And so
it's a
that's
bar.
how we thought about
You're
it.
just standing at a bar.
Right, exactly. So in the beginning, it was like, okay, what is the centerpiece? What's the anchoring piece to kind of define out the living space of its sofa, right? And it happens to be the like from a quantitative standpoint, from a market research standpoint, it's also the most volume, right? And so that's the first step. And then from there on, it's like we actually divide the outdoor living space into a few functional areas. So we say live, dine, play,
Hmm.
lounge, and so we have been on that roadmap to fill out those spaces. So now we have the coffee table that goes along with the sofa. Now we have a
Yeah.
rug, right? Outdoor rug that goes underneath that. And then we have accent tables. Oh, and we found out, you know what? In the off seasons, people want warmth. And so we have a fire table. That also, by the way, I'm very proud of it because it also happens to be not happens to be. It's intentionally designed to be a griddle, and so you can cook around the
Oh,
fire
cool.
table. Because I'm a huge Korean barbecue fan and a
Okay.
Chinese hot pot fan. Like I love we call it social barbecue, right? Like
Right.
you sit around the fire pit, you can cook together, you can have laughs and drinks together.
Yeah.
I think it's just magical, and doing that outdoors is just amazing. And so,
Which fits into
really,
your live, dine, the
yeah,
4 kind of elements you mentioned. Yeah.
yeah. So then you have dining category, dining tables, chairs, right, and play. It's like poolside, right, chaise lounges, umbrellas, and so that's been the approach. And for us, it's really going from a single product company to like a total backyard solution company, which is kind of like this. This is our year to go from single product to total solution, and to go from single channel to omni channel. So it's a very pivotal
Right.
year for us, and that definitely affects the product line and the planning process a lot.
I guess the result becomes like a backyard that's brought to you by Outer because the entire backyard has
That's right.
pieces.
So,
Yeah.
like I
Do
shared,
you
this season our AOV has ballooned to $11,000, if not more, right?
Amazing.
Because people are
Yeah.
now buying a full bundle instead of just one product. So that's always been the goal, and so yeah, we're seeing it take shape.
Do you get analytical and mathematical about, like, demand forecasting as well?
For sure. So we employ this S&OP process, sales and operations planning process. So our ops team, our supply chain, team is plugged into what's going on the front end on sales and marketing. So based on that, we have our finance team, our ops team actually tackle the demand planning together. Our goal is really to, I mean, inventory has been a huge challenge for most e-commerce brands in the last few
Yeah.
years. Certainly, we were also impacted by that. So to get really lean on inventory turn and to get really, really quantitative and analytical about that is, I think key to brands growth this year.
This has been very, very insightful, Jake. I think I speak for everyone that's watching, and for those that couldn't make it, we will kind of chop this up and share some clips, some highlights, and just kind of share the whole replay. This was our first AMA, so it's a few hiccups here and there, but I think it was great. So yeah, I just want to thank you for taking the time and sharing your insights, Jake, and yeah, it was a pleasure having you on with us.
Yeah, it's always fun to chat with you, and in this case, chatting with you, but then broadcast to the world. So
Yeah,
always fun as well. So yeah, thanks for the invite. Honored to be a guest here.
awesome. Thanks, Jake. See everyone next time.
Thanks, Mark. See everyone.